episode 311 of the Global from Asia podcast. It's an interesting story of the first COVID case in Indonesia and the way society treats that. Let's do this.
Welcome to the Global from Asia podcast, where the daunting process of running an international business is broken down into straight-up, actionable advice. And now, your host, Michael Michelini.
Hope you all are having a fabulous Tuesday morning. It is a Tuesday morning show, 10 a.m. Hong Kong time. We try to get these shows out every single week, up to episode 311. For you listeners, some people that don't listen to a lot often to the show are like, you're just like having this conversation with me. I don't even know who you are. So somebody told me the other day. I don't know. I just kind of picture myself with some of the regular listeners I know, and in your earbuds. I really appreciate that, and I hope the others enjoy our little preview. Just been my son is rollerblading now. Can you believe this? I'm watching him fall, but he's pretty good. He falls and he gets back up, but they even have butt pads, knee pads, hand pads, elbow pads. It's like everything. And I had an argument with my wife and her Chinese family because I said, when I was your age, I used to have some used skates that I had to borrow, and then I didn't have anything, and I would get cut and scraped and fall, and that rash, you'd fall on that pavement, and it would I don't know, you might know what I'm talking about. I think Miles needs that, but I am overvoted here in the Chinese family. So, anyway, this week's show is an interesting one. I read about this in the South China Morning Post, SCMP, and it was pretty cool. I could get through to Ratri, and she shared pretty openly. It was an amazing conversation. It's a pretty long one, too. So I hope you enjoyed. She's really, an amazing artist, and we really had a good connection and a conversation. And her and her sister, mom, and her family just went through what already would have been a nightmare going through COVID, but the whole experience of the family. But then it also somehow names got leaked, social media attacks. It's insane. So she's really brave to be out there publicly, and she has a pretty good new mission in life. And like I've been saying on previous shows, let's use this nightmare to transform ourselves, our businesses, our personal lives, and more. So we have a little treat for you. A little bit less business, more about this COVID and the experience of being one of the first ones in the family, and social media attacks and more. So let's tune in. And then after, I'll give you all an update about my COVID post-COVID last couple months after quarantine here in China. I've given you some updates, but I'll kind of catch you up if you're interested in my little personal updates. But let's tune into the interview. Do you enjoy what's going on here at the Global from Asia podcast, and you want to contribute more and get more in the scenes, behind the scenes with me and some of the guests and others in the community? GFAVIP.com is the place to do just that. We have regular private calls, forums, online courses, special deals, as well as anything we can give you first, or special dibs, of course, to our events when they do restart. I would love to see you on the inside. Application only, GFAVIP.com. All right, thank you everybody for choosing to listen to another Global from Asia podcast. This one is a special edition, I would say. I'm really happy to make this connection with Ratri. And Ratri is a artist, and I feel like we're also artists here at the Global from Asia show. And she's went through quite a huge transition in her life, as well as many people listening, myself included. And was lucky enough to run across your article in South China Morning Post about your being one of the first cases in Indonesia with COVID, and now you're coming out of that and coming out with a new person and a new way of thinking, right? It's great to have you on, Ratri.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, yeah, just go through your bio really quickly. You're a producer and a cultural manager with history in working performing arts, global arts festivals, and nonprofit cultural organizations. you like to lead, produce, and engage in local and international collaboration, as well as multilateral exchange and cooperation for arts and cultural projects for sustaining significance. So that's quite a bit of achievements you have there. So would that about cover it, or do you want to add a little bit more about your background and what you do?
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I started. Well, I danced a lot as I was little, and I wanted to be a dancer. But then we were living in Canada then in my early teenage life, and thought that, and then I could see like a path of being a dancer as a career. But then we moved back to Indonesia, and I learned that here in Indonesia, like it's still really difficult to live as a dancer professionally. But then I saw another side of the industry, which is the management and the production side of it, and that is really lacking that structure in Indonesia, in Indonesian performing arts scene. So then I decided that I was really interested in it, but also since I was little, because I was dancing a lot of Indonesian traditional dances, and I had the chance to perform many of our traditional dances in Canada, and I saw the reaction of the Canadians, and they were really appreciative of our culture. And since then, what's in my mind was I wanted to promote and help the production and then the marketing of Indonesian arts and culture, and mainly the focus for me is by through performing arts. And so just from that, having that dream as I was little, to be a cultural attaché for Indonesia, I started working um, at the Indonesian Dance Festival, which is the one and only international contemporary dance festival, and that's how my career started as an arts manager. And now I become a producer, and I produce a lot of work um, that has how do you say, like a social activism aspect to it, as part of the storytelling. And I feel really happy when I can produce works and collaborating with people of different backgrounds, cultural and identity wise, and telling stories that would otherwise not be told, or difficult to be told, experiences of people coming from different backgrounds. And so yeah, I've involved myself in different productions. I'm not really concerned now of the medium, so I'm into dance, theater. I'm also program manager of the Indonesian Dance Festival, but I also produce film. So what's in it for me is not really the medium of the art, but the story, what the story is telling. Yeah.
Which is, I think storytelling is one of the most important things in the modern world, or any time in art or in business or in life. So it's a very important skill to have. So it's really nice to get to know you, Ratri, and of course we're diving into this traumatic story you went through recently. From what I read in the article, you were one of the first to in Indonesia, right, to be diagnosed, or what, I don't know, tested for this for the COVID. So how can you take us to that moment when it happened, or what was
Yeah.
feeling, or?
Yes, it was a really strange day. So it was March 2nd, 2020, and I had just returned to Indonesia for about 2 weeks. So my residency right now is actually in Vienna, in Austria, and I came home to Jakarta for a holiday, for a 6-week holiday, to be with my family and friends. And then I actually started feeling unwell just 3 days after I landed in Jakarta. And I thought I was just catching a cold, like a flu, a normal flu. And on top of it, that my jet lag was kicking in. So I felt extremely tired. I really just needed to get to bed that day, that afternoon, and thinking that if I can take a few hours of nap, that I would wake up feeling fine again. But I woke up still not feeling fine, and I told my mother that day that I want to go to a doctor, because in Vienna during the winter time, since starting in December and January, I've caught the flu a few times, and I didn't want to risk catching another one in Jakarta while I'm on this short holiday. So we went to the doctor and I got myself checked. But at that time, I really only had like regular flu symptoms. So the doctor identified that I had a slight throat inflammation, and then my body temperature was only about 37 degrees point something. So it wasn't a major fever. But he gave me some medicines and just told me to take it and then to rest at home, which was what I did. But for the next 5 days, I was feeling constantly just weak and tired, that I knew my head was telling me that I needed to rest in bed for a few days, which is what I did. And what I felt was I couldn't really taste the food I was eating. So my body was just functioning like, okay, I need to eat now 3 times a day, but I couldn't really taste the food. And my body temperature was going up and down between 36 to 37.5 degrees Celsius maximum. So which is really nothing. On the other hand, my sister started developing really bad, like more severe symptoms. So she was coughing so much. She had really, really high fever, and her body was like shivering a lot. And she also had diarrhea. So me and her, we went to a hospital finally together to get ourselves tested. We both got our blood tested as well, and both came out um, that we had some viral infection in our blood. But nobody identified this as anything. So we came home, and my doctor told me, "You'll be fine. You've had the fever now for 4 or 5 days. Take these medicines, and in 2 days you will be fine." Which was exactly what happened to me. Within 2 days, I was fine. I was working. I was meeting friends. I was running around Jakarta. On the other hand, my sister stayed sick. By this time, she would already been in a state of fever for almost 10 days. And at that time, also, my mother became sick. She had a fever for 3 days, but she had different symptoms than my sister. Anyway, to cut it short, I took them both to the hospital. Now, for my sister, the second time, for my mother, the first time. And my mother was diagnosed with typhus, and my sister with bronchopneumonia. And immediately the doctor requested them to stay at the hospital, to be hospitalized. And I went home. We didn't think about anything. Um, However, we have an aunt in Vienna who is my mother's older sister. And by that time, Italy was already, I believe, in a lockdown situation, and Vienna was going to start their lockdown. So she was very concerned, and she was the one who kept encouraging us, for my sister Sita, to request to get the COVID-19 test at the hospital. Because my auntie kept saying, if the two of you are infected with the coronavirus, you will recover, you will be fine, but we need to take care of your mother because she's older, she could be in a worse situation. So that's what we did. My sister was very active. She asked the doctor to get tested, and our family, everybody encouraged us too. But the doctor said they don't have the means and the capacity to do this. And then the next day, my sister was informed by a dance community in Malaysia, because my sister is also an active dance trainer in the Latin dance community, and they're all in touch with each other. So the dance community in Malaysia informed the dance community in Jakarta that there had been someone who was in Jakarta and participated in several dance events here, and then went back to Malaysia, and was confirmed with COVID-19 in Malaysia about a week and a half later. So that it's just a way to confirm that both my sister and I were in the same room. It was a big restaurant where there was this social dance event with that person. Yeah. So then my sister informed the doctor about this event a week and a half before she was at the hospital, and the doctor immediately acted seriously. Like he coordinated with the government-run hospital to, how do you say, to transfer my sister and my mother to that hospital, which is where then they got the swab test. And that was it. And then the next day, the president around noon on March 2nd announced that we have to confirm the first two confirmed coronavirus patients, and that was my mom and my sister. It was really, how do you say, like, I think it would have been a normal, a rather normal news had we heard first of all by the doctors who were taking care of my mother and my sister. But later on, the provincial government leaked our identity and the address of our home. So within about an hour, journalists were hovering at our house, wanting to cover this breaking news. So that was what made like our world just turned upside down, and we were handling a lot of stress and coordination because my mother and my sister were the first two cases, and so the health departments of the provincial health department and the Jakarta health department and the federal Ministry of Health also were in contact with me, actually, specifically because they were trying to figure out where I was and that I needed also to be taken to the hospital to get the swab test as well. So it all went from there.
Wow, that's quite yeah.
It's a long one.
Thanks for the full story here. And so it seems like it was the media, like not the main, but like it.
No, it was not not the main media nor the federal government. Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, I remember in the article, it was, obviously it must have been horrible for, you and your family with the way the social media is these days. And I don't know if you're comfortable sharing kind of how that felt or what was happening with your personal lives at that time or.
Yeah. Well, actually, what made it worse was that there were pictures of me and my mother and then also my sister going around on WhatsApp groups. I don't know if you're familiar, but WhatsApp groups is a super tool of communication within Indonesians, within the Indonesian people. So suddenly that day there was pictures going around. They mistaken me for my sister, and this picture was blasted all over everybody's WhatsApp group. So all my friends from decades ago, received this message saying this is like, it was something that said this is the first two COVID-19 patients of Indonesia, blah blah blah. We didn't really get a hold of what they were saying, but there was also another picture of my sister. Somebody actually took her profile picture on her WhatsApp a while ago, and she was performing a Brazilian dance performance, meaning that what is that, those costumes called? I can't remember now, but it's rather revealing for the standard of Indonesian culture. So somebody blasted that picture with some language insinuating that this is the first COVID-19 patient along with her mother, and they are both hired dancers who often dance with foreigners, this kind of slurring language. Yes, and this went all over Indonesia, I'm sure. And, later on we hear about it from our friends or from our family, and they all, immediately defended us, like, this is not right that you do this, things like this happen outside of our knowledge. But of course we received that capture picture, and with the slurring language, like, it came back to us. So that's what made everything worse.
Yeah, I can imagine that might be even worse than the actual virus or the hospitalization.
Yeah, yeah, because like as soon as my mother and my sister were transferred to the government run hospital that is designated to take care of COVID-19, um, their clinical condition was actually improving already. They were already on their way to recovery. My sister's cough was much better already, but then as soon as all this came down, it really hit her mentally and emotionally. I mean, of course, first of all, that she felt really she felt a big level of guilt because she thought, you know, she was labeled as the number one patient, and it's as if she is the one who brought the virus to
Yeah.
Indonesia and then infected my mother and then later on me as well. um, but that's not how it is actually. And so on top of feeling the guilt, then she also felt really stressed out that she feels her identity and her profession was attacked as being dancers. And I mean, I think this has a lot to do with our social cultural background and history of Indonesian society. I mean, we keep thinking that if we were men, that the backlash from netizen and from the public would not be this way. And then on top of it, they are attacking, like the stigma came to us, people who are saying dance is a sin, and dancing is a foreign culture which you all brought to Indonesia. That's why you became sick. And then dance is a sin because you are touching each other's bodies. This is not Indonesian culture. You are all satanic women, for example. You know, we receive these
Yeah, horrible.
messages.
Yeah.
um, what was your question? Now I think I lost it. I don't know if
I
I.
guess, to getting through this, and of course, just the medical part was seems like it wasn't so as bad as this whole media or this public.
No, yeah, of course we had the fear, you know, like we had the fear of the unknown about this COVID-19 disease and the coronavirus, because obviously it's something that even, you know, the medical sector is still researching, and every day back then there was, even until today, right, there are still new developments, new things that they're learning about it, and then there's no vaccine yet. So there was also that fear. But I think had we not been also attacked by these other aspects, the stigmatizing and the yeah, the social media attack, I don't think it I don't think the stress would have been that as high as what we had.
Okay. So I have the date March 2nd is I guess when it started.
Yeah.
How long was, what kind of like what's the time frame we're talking about for I guess the recovery, maybe this public response? Was it like a while? How long did this all
Yeah.
seem to go for?
So yeah, March 2nd was when everything happened, and then March 4th I was then isolated as well. And then my sister and I were discharged from the hospital on March 13th. And then my mother was then discharged on March 16th. Um, and we were invited by the Ministry of Health to do a like some kind of like a press conference. Um, we didn't know to what extent that would have done, but after we did that, we were given a chance for each of us to speak to the public and the media. And we chose to do, you know, to send positive news, positive how do you say, yeah, just a positive
Okay.
attitude towards the COVID-19.
Encouragement,
And then
yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, maybe you've heard about that too. And then after that, the second wave came because then these people who they didn't believe that we were actually sick, and
Yeah.
they accused us of being um Jokowi's and the sitting cabinet's tool for political campaign. So like that we were politicized, and they accused
Mm.
us of getting paid by the government for doing this, that it was a setup, that we were all hired actresses, how much money, did we receive, that we were the president's whores, I'm sorry, or prostitutes. um yeah, so all of that happened, and that they a lot of people blamed me and my sister on our social media for everything that happened in their life, for their wedding being canceled, for them being, not having a job, for
Yeah.
corona to reach Indonesia, for bringing the virus to the whole of Indonesia. And I was not aware, because I was abroad, but I was not aware that there had been a message by somebody from the Minister of Health or people in the government body saying that the corona will never reach Indonesia, this kind of language. So that we took the backlash because of that attitude that happened before. Yeah.
I have friends in Indonesia, and they also said, "Oh, it's not hit us yet." I remember it was like, it seemed like, yeah, January, February, people were just saying it's not it's not here. We're safe. I have friends there,
Yeah.
and but it seems like all over the world people are reacting similarly. I would say, I don't know if you would agree. I think this is just probably happened to similar people to as you think, in that situation in different locations, maybe, or.
Even in the case of Indonesia, that there are other people
Oh,
actually.
I mean, like maybe somebody in Canada or Italy or Spain, maybe if they were identified as the first. I wonder if they went through similar. I'm not sure.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I guess
I didn't.
probably maybe, but I don't know if you.
Well, the thing is, when this whole attack happened and we were in the isolation rooms, um, in the hospital, because we were all angry and we were all upset and confused and also fearful, the
Mm-hmm.
three of us. And in that extent also my family, my father, his wife, my uncle, my aunt, my cousins. We were all so confused with what's going on, because immediately some friends of ours were saying that we might be politicized by any side of the government. We don't know who, is this these are just hearsays. But uh, of course we were confused, like how could it be us, like Indonesia is the fourth biggest, most populated country. Like it's a huge nation, and how did it happen to us,
Yeah,
out
it's
of
really.
everybody? Yeah, this is what we kept thinking.
I guess the worst, yeah, is you guys were identified. I don't know if other
Exactly,
countries
exactly. So
identified the person.
I don't know that in any other country that
Yeah, I can't think
the
of anybody
identities
else. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when this backlash and the attacks by the netizen happened, I clearly saw the impact to my sister, that her health condition became worse, her cough became worse, and all of our blood tensions were so high. We have never had it that high in our entire life, because usually we have low blood pressure, the three of us. And so I felt like, okay, it's not helping anyone if I'm just angry and upset and expressing, my anger in towards my or within my family, because I was, like I said, I had the least symptoms, and by the time I was isolated, I felt like I was a healthy person but staying at the hospital. um, so I was a carrier of the virus, but I no longer have the symptoms. So I decided to do something like a positive campaign through my Instagram account.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Before this, yeah, I was really a non-active Instagram account. I've never even created Instagram stories before, but because I was just so sick of the distorted media reporting incorrectly about us and our situation, and then on top of it, the just strangers thinking and judging us, thinking like they know us. So I started a positive campaign, basically just to report to my followers, who are mainly my family and friends at the time, how we were doing and what's actually we are doing being during our isolation. Because the word isolation is also it's rather a scary word, right? Like, you think someone who's isolated at the hospital is someone who is just laying there, like, who can no longer do anything, almost near death, or something like this, right? So I was like, I wanted to just send a message that it's not like that, actually. Like, isolation is not as bad as people think. And I was always updating our clinical conditions also. But somehow that went viral, because my friends then started sharing to their friends, and then it's like a domino effect. And then I started getting responses from people I don't know, encouraging me to keep telling and updating our stories through Instagram, because they feel like um, they needed the positive message and the encouraging message that we can recover from COVID-19, that this is really not as deadly as people think. So after a while, just to answer your question, as you know, we've also received a lot of requests by the media for interviews. And the whole time when the negative comments took place, I encouraged my sister to not respond, um, but just keep the positive level, as high as we could, and to not give them more power over us, right? And
Yeah.
but one day we were interviewed by a media covering Southeast Asia, or I mean the whole of Asia. And I asked the reporter, we used to, at the beginning, we used to always tell people we do not want to talk about the stigma and the backlash from the netizen, because of that reason. We don't want to give them the power and the energy and the time to talk about them. um, and we want to keep sending the positive news and encouraging all levels of the society that's handling the COVID-19. And then that day we were interviewed by this woman, um, and I asked her, well, actually, the stigma has been happening really badly towards us. And I was just curious, like, because since she covered, Malaysia, Vietnam, and other Asian countries, have you heard or have you seen the same thing happening to us? Happens also to other COVID-19 patients in all the other Asian countries. And she was like, no, I'm completely like she was like, my mind is like, she cannot even comprehend why this is happening only in Indonesia.
Yeah, I'm thinking similar. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're in Hong Kong. You probably have also heard other stories, yeah?
Yeah. Technically, I'm in China today, but I'm in
Oh,
Hong
sorry.
Kong. But yeah, I know it. I have a Hong Kong number, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of other cases, but I haven't heard such a horrible like netizen attack on the individuals. It seems I don't know. Yeah, I've just also not come across that. Seems horrible.
Yeah.
You already have to deal with being, going through this horrible experience and medical treatments or whatever is involved, and also to have your personal life invaded with random people venting to you about their weddings and jobs. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny in a way. So after that, I suggested to my family, hey, actually, we actually should talk about this, because this is an unusual phenomena. Like, why? We should be asking this question, like, why? And so yeah, so then after that, we started being more comfortable. Just, I mean, it is our truth anyway, so we talk about it like I am talking with you
Yeah,
right
so I'm
now.
glad you agreed to share with us and our listeners.
Yeah.
So, I'm really happy. One, you're of course open to sharing with us and others, and using this to inspire people and encourage people, which is also really why I was happy to reach out to you. And what are some encouragement? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how it is in Indonesia, but even in China, Hong Kong, I mean, US, like everybody's still locked down. We're in mid-May, right? Almost
Yeah.
getting into June. It'll probably be June when the show goes live. So I don't know. Like, seems like I feel like rest of this year we might be in a similar type. So yeah, what have you been kind of telling people around to mindsets or ways to deal with this?
Yeah, so what the message I've developed from all of my experiences in the past in these past 2 months is that in times of hardship we can decide to think and act positively or negatively, and then from there you can figure out what to do. And I always I do my best to choose having a positive mindset and attitude, because that's the only way we can control our you know our we can only control our reactions towards what life throws at us. And so I hope that people will also think choose to have a positive mindset and attitude towards this hard time that everybody is going through. And I always try to remind myself that we're all on the same boat, like we're all going through this together, and not only nationally but also globally. And also that I also believe that somehow the universe is telling us to have this little pause. I call it little because we have such a, our life is long. And at this time, we've been forced to take a break and to pause and, to work from home, to stay home and try to have distance, because it's really weird, because by having distance, we save ourselves and people we love. And that hopefully at the end of this, the nature will be healthier, and we have a better relationship as well with the nature and our surrounding. And yeah, have that light at the end of the tunnel. I
Yeah,
guess that was.
yeah, I like it.
But I forgot to add the positive mindset and attitude is, I think it's specific to the condition in Indonesia, because there's so many hoax news going around and fear mongering about what this disease is. And lots of people in Indonesia might not have the same access to knowledge and to data as other people, because of our
Mhm.
education and economical gap. So yeah, that's why I think this positivity mindset messaging is super important.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really important. I think not just Indonesia, but everywhere needs that. I mean, some people just in their own bubbles on social media and their own friends, they only hear what they want to hear or what's in their close circle of somewhat, yeah, like fake or not true, or at least,
Yeah.
yeah. I hope it, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're doing great, and hope you can reach even more people. Hope we can help you here too. Okay, Archie, this has been fascinating. I think it's great. Maybe just the last way, if there's we could link to your Instagram if you like, or any kind of websites or things that people could read. I'll link to the South China Morning Post article I found you with for people to read this story.
Uh-huh.
If there's anything,
That's Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly active on my Instagram these days. I have I so my ID, yeah, it's like at Ratri Anindya, and then I'm also on Facebook, but I haven't been really updating anything there. Mostly on Instagram, so people can find me there
perfect. Yeah, we'll
easily.
put it
Yeah.
up on the show notes in the blog. All right, Ratri, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
And I
you.
know you're so busy. I appreciate this a lot.
No worries. It was nice to meet you, and
Yeah, you
thank
too.
you for chatting with me as well.
Loadpipe.com has been going on for over a couple of months now. Thank you for those that have supported and worked out some of the bumps in the road with us on the sourcing of the masks and the PPE, all this COVID nightmare. We are working on going into an open beta. You can check out some of the products, and we are working on regularly giving you factory direct and special opportunities to buy products from China and hopefully other parts of the world too, but we're here in China directly. Thank you, and appreciate your support in advance. Thank you, Ratri. Really appreciate. She's really brave. She did that, and she's been putting herself out there, and hopefully things seem to have died down with the personal attacks to her and her family on social media. I mean, that I can't imagine. You're already trying to deal with this catastrophe in your life and your family, and she's supposed to be in Europe, and she's stuck here and go through all that. So she seems like a she was already a strong person, but she seems like she's even a stronger willed person, and I wish her the best in the future. So I said in the intro I would share my experiences. I just had an interesting call with a friend in Seattle. He's like, "Oh, how's China? We're all going crazy here in the U.S., just stuck in our house. He's just got to get out of here. What happens once people start getting out?" And I shared on my video blog at mikesblog.com if you want to see my videos, more personal stuff. But what happened was, people stopped wearing masks, honestly. But the most annoying thing is the scanning. I got to scan my QR on my WeChat to enter a mall, to enter taxis, to, this whole big data. I mean, China really has everything. Oh, and last week's show got deleted on China internet. Didn't like that national security law. I guess I would have expected that. I hope they don't delete this one. I don't know. I don't think this one's bad, but yeah. I mean, that's. And then nobody here. I'm the only foreigner, so all the Chinese people just feel like it's fine to just give up your identity, your location, your history, because it's the government protects you. And sure, I do understand there's positive intentions, but at the same time, maybe it's the American in me. But they, maybe it's too many of those action movies. But they could take information and use it against you, and then how do you even know, if it's I don't know. How do you even know? Prove anything, right? They could just say, "Oh, we found this on you," and it's just a tough one. But let's say for me, I've been I rented a new apartment. Might have said it on previous episodes, but I'm in a 6-month contract here in Shenyang, China, Dongbei, north of China, until the middle of November. But rent's 2,000 RMB, so that's nothing really. And grinding away at Load Pipe, grinding away with our content team. We're doing some great projects with some other people doing their websites and their content, building out our own websites, of course this content, and just enjoy creating. So I'm basically just grinding away. I feel like I'm still in a quarantine, even though I'm not. I might have mentioned, I have our apartment. Finally, I moved out of the in-laws. I was staying on a sofa for like over a month, maybe a month and a half, and I finally couldn't take it, because I don't think we're going back to Thailand this year. So we just decided to rent an apartment in that same complex. So, I just literally came back from dinner with the grandparents and left the kids with them to watch some TV. And I came upstairs to our place to record this intro for you. And that's kind of what we do, is morning grind. I teach the kids in the afternoons. And then after, evening dinner, and then I kind of do some more content like this and some other updates. So it's been, I think all of us, it's been what a crazy year. Just let that sink in if you're still hanging out with me here in this interview, this recording. Yeah, let's just think about that. I don't know, is it this year or is it this decade? We had Lawrence Brahm talk about it, are we going to Shangri-La? Is this like a whole new change of the world? I'm gonna leave it up to you to think about. Put a couple of dramatic pauses in this one, but let's really just reflect on who we are. All right, see you next week.
To get more info about running an international business, please visit our website at www.globalfromasia.com. That's www.globalfromasia.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to our iTunes feed. Thanks for tuning in.